Hello and welcome back to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be playing some more Tiny Bunny. We had just reached the third and, as far as I'm aware, current final available chapter of the game. As I said at the start, it's still in early access, has been for about 16, 17 months or so, I think. And I think they're looking to release in 2023, so, we don't necessarily have a lot longer to wait for the rest. But yeah, so this, it'll probably take an episode or two, I would imagine. But let's see where this goes. He's the one who hated Baburin. You think he did it? I've heard he's a weirdo. I hurriedly rubbed my glasses. The glasses! Semyon was clutching them in his fist while I was getting beaten up. And in just a couple of hours, this lost item was lying on the ledge of my window. It was hard to imagine that Sioma suddenly got guilty conscience and returned my glasses in such a strange way. I was shocked, but kept walking toward the classroom, accompanied by nasty whispers all around me. That photo still stood before my eyes. Semyon has gone missing. Semyon is gone. His fat fingers will never get to my throat. His signet ring won't smash into my chin. He'll never humiliate me again. Wasn't that what I wished for? On the other hand, did I really wish Semyon to become a murky stain on the notice board? He was still someone's son, or a grandson, and he went through the same struggles as me. Did I really wish for my unseen companion to dispatch him in such a brutal fashion? I didn't know the answer. Or I was just scared of it. Nonetheless, school still had something nice about it. Polina, the girl with the violin, was like a mountain spring, like well water that you gulp down, pressing your lips against the zinc outer ring of a bucket, and can't ever get enough. That's an odd metaphor. What if I make her one of the characters in the story I'll draw? The protagonist will save her from terrifying monsters. As soon as I thought of monsters, a bunch of my classmates slid down the rails, smirking like the xenomorphs from The Alien. Or just Alien, probably. Or Aliens, as it was called in the Western world. I immediately felt larvae of fear writhe in my stomach. I didn't want to cross paths with Romka and Biasha after what happened yesterday, especially since Semyon suddenly went missing. I entered the classroom and went toward the last row. All of the chatter suddenly died down, so I walked there in complete silence. I felt like my classmates pushed and poked me with their stares. They carefully observed my every move. They looked at me with a mortifying mix of pity, ridicule and derision, like a scientist looks at an ugly representative of a newfound species of worms. I stared at the desk with a huge pile of library textbooks on top, my fists clenched. It felt like I was the one who disappeared in that snowy forest, and my desk was finally used for something worthwhile. Semyon's empty chair stood in front of me. The chair that once belonged to Vova gathered dust somewhere in another classroom. I guess we'll sit down then. After a moment of hesitation, I sat down at Baburin's desk, the place where I was supposed to be assigned by Lilia Pavlovna at first. The chatter resumed as if someone just unpaused a movie. Baburin's grandma made such a fuss when he didn't return home. First she ran to the school and then called the cops. Yes, yes, yes. Katya snuck a cunning glance at me, then leaned in to her neighbour and whispered something. Girls from the second row also leaned in. She shared something with them too. Whispers, nods. I kept catching her stare on myself. Her neighbour stared too. The whole class was watching me. It was like they felt the need to watch me because they were searching for traces of blood on my fingers. I wanted to defend myself and shout, "Guys, listen, I'm innocent." The delinquents turned round and stared at me in silence. Their looks were dripping with malice. But why? What did I do to them? Their friend went missing and they're still focused on me. Suddenly I noticed Biasha drilling a hole in my nose with his eyes. It felt like he was about to point his finger at me and shout at the top of his lungs, "Everyone look! Baburin snatched his glasses yesterday and now he has them back! Murderer!" But he remained silent, as if there was nothing special at all about my glasses. I may be going mad, but I think Biasha knows something. He knows something, but he won't tell me what. As if looking for protection, I clutched the ruler until my hand hurt. You don't have to be Columbo to solve this. I think we all know who Columbo is. Who held a grudge against Baburin? Who hit him yesterday, bullied him, and then... The metal ruler fell out of my weak fingers. It hit the floor with a jingle, and that made the other kids shudder. Katja bit her tongue and squirmed nervously. Chairs scraped against the floor. My classmates moved away from me, closer to the exit, toward the teacher's desk. I was not the only one to catch wind of that change. Romka and Biasha looked around and winced in contempt. Too bad that they weren't afraid of me like everybody else. Shut it! I bet you Baburin just got a whipping from his old hag and ran off. They'll find him soon. They'll find him all right. In a ravine with his stomach cut open. I gulped. I imagined Sioma on a snowy blanket, his face, white like a fish belly, split down the middle by the crevice of his mouth, snowflakes falling on his glassy eyes and filling up his throat. See, I could almost hear his condescending tone, it's all your fault. But why was Semyon the only one to get his just desserts for bullying me? Weren't all of them supposed to disappear? Romka, Biasha, Katja, along with every laughing onlooker. Of course, Semyon did me a favour by disappearing. Thanks to him, my classmates now stared at me in awe. But that was only one side of the coin. What if I have to repay that favour soon? The door creaked. Polina entered the classroom. I straightened up in a hurry so she wouldn't see me looking like a scared critter. Polina went to her seat without looking at me. The ringer's trill announced the start of the class. All right, stop messing around. Class, stand up. You too, Petrov. Lilia Pavlovna went to her desk, followed by a policeman in a uniform. It was the man that visited us just recently, tall, and his stare so sharp you could get cut on it. Hello there, kids. Hi. You can sit down, kids. This is Senior Lieutenant Konstantin Vladimirovich Tikhonov. He's going to ask you a couple of questions and give you a small PSA. The class livened up. Talking to a policeman was way better than studying. I, on the other hand, was ready to sit through hundreds of hours of Russian literature just to escape the lieutenant's oppressive stare. His brown eyes felt around the classroom looking for me. Hair stood on the back of my neck and an icicle had lodged in my gut. Is it true that Baburin got killed by a serial killer? Shush, Ekaterina. Let the adults ask questions here. We're all scared. Maybe the killer is somewhere close. Maybe they're even sitting among us. Her sly stare was directed at me. Tikhonov stepped in between the rows of desks and started walking at an excruciatingly slow pace, brushing his fingers against the chairs as he passed by. Some of the students almost broke their necks following his movements. That's how a crowd of commoners would gleefully anticipate a public execution in the Middle Ages. And he just walked, getting closer and closer to me. I gritted my teeth to stop myself from screaming. Calm down. Breathe. You didn't kill or kidnap anyone. He already knew the answer to his question, but the policeman still asked in a stern voice. Anton Petrov? Yes. Stand up, Petrov. My muscles turned to stone. I got up, unglued myself from the chair. I felt like I could hear all my joints creak in the process. I only wished that Polina wouldn't turn around and see the grimace of horror on my face. If only I could be somewhere far away in the forest, digging myself into a snow pile, rolling up into a ball there. The officer stared at me as if he was about to lock a pair of handcuffs on my wrists. I wonder how cold those bracelets are to the touch. I imagined myself getting jailed and put into a juvenile detention centre where tens of Semyons would constantly harass me. I don't know anything. I have nothing to do with this. Nobody is accusing you of anything. For now. Only then I noticed a file that said case number in his hand. It had a grey cover made from rough carton. It flopped onto the desk like a guillotine blade that slid down on someone's neck. With a measured motion, Tikhonov opened the file, still studying me with his gaze. I caught a glimpse of documents and photos. They showed prints on the snow. They looked like animal prints. Have you talked to Semyon Baburin before? I only knew him for a week. Everyone knows that Petrov hated him. I turned red. You ugly bitch. I wanted to sink my teeth into Katya's face and chew out her cheek. Instead, I replied with the calmest voice I could muster. We had a fight yesterday, but he started it. So I hit him. How hard did you hit him? Not that hard, I mean... I waved my hand indecisively. Tikhonov looked at my fist as if he was surprised that I managed to hit the big kid from the photo. Surprisingly, Lilia Pavlovna came to my rescue. Baburin is a trouble teen, a true pain in the rear. The officer replied with a meaningful nod and fished out a notebook out of the file. Is this yours? I averted my gaze. It was a math notebook with my name on it. My classmates devoured me greedily with their eyes. It felt like even the writers on the portraits squinted at me in suspicion. Yes? We found it in the forest. In the area where the tractor driver who was ploughing snow there last saw Baburin. I started blinking in bewilderment. Romka ransacked my school bag. The notebook probably just got lost somewhere in the bushes. The lieutenant knew about the school brawl, but was he aware of the fight in the forest clearing? I had witnesses that could testify to Semyon and I walking in different directions after that. I looked toward the boys, hopeful. Romka, who sat behind Tikhonov, put a finger to his lips. And then, when the officer quickly turned around, he pretended to pick his nose. I deciphered his signal. Boys like Romka would probably say something like snitches get stitches in a situation like this. I frantically fixed my glasses. Wait, Semyon took them away yesterday, but now they're... So what were you doing in the forest yesterday, Anton? I go to school through the forest. It could have easily fallen out of my bag. Easily, just like me producing this half-truth. Be careful out there. Before I could realize whether it was a genuine piece of advice or a veiled threat, the teacher said, Class, the officer will now tell you about some rules you should follow. So the killer does exist. We can't make any of this public for now. Whether the criminal really exists or not, you should be mindful for your safety. The police, your parents, and your teachers all watch over you, but no one guard you better than you yourself. Alright, any questions? A stockade of arms rose from the desks. The kids shouted over each other, swarming the policeman with questions. In an attempt to calm down that chorus, he moved towards the blackboard. The grey file was left lying in front of me. I stared at it, my breathing so ragged that I might have looked like someone who just ran a 100-metre sprint. Beads of sweat rolled down my neck, my back. I looked around the classroom. My classmates were catching the officer's every word. Only Romka was saying something to Biasha. Lilia Pavlovna was staring into the window, fighting back yawns. I mean, we probably have... Hang on, I can't examine anything, so maybe we should open the file. As soon as I touched the folder, Tikhonov lashed at me with his eyes. My hand instinctively moved away as if that stare actually hurt. The officer just kept staring at me without saying a word, making me squirm under the weight of this uncomfortable silence and the sneering looks of my classmates. And then he suddenly continued his speech, as if nothing ever happened. Should we try again? Let's try again. I clanged my teeth from surprise, pushed myself into the back of my chair, blinking in bewilderment. The officer silently gathered the documents and gave me a stern look.
Well, aren't you a curious boy, Petrov? Let me say this again. If you see anyone suspicious in the village, be it near the school or on the forest trail, contact the police immediately. You know our number, right?
02.
Thanks for listening, boys and girls.
Thank you, Lilia Pavlovna.
And ahem, we'll find your classmate.
Yeah, right, a thought flashed through my mind. Dig through enough ditches and maybe you'll be able to piece him together. Like Legos. My thoughts turned evil for some reason and I couldn't control them. I tried to switch to the lieutenant's speech about suspicious individuals. What if I saw the killer before? What if I was a hair's breadth away from them? Suspicious people. How suspicious was the fox girl that wandered in the darkness? A weirdo that always appears out of nowhere and then dissolves into thin air with her riddles and rhymes. Could she really harm the hulking Semyon? Should I tell the officer about her? Wait, what if I get mocked for speaking out? What if they'll start whispering behind my back, or, what's even worse, think that I'm insane? Romka gave me a stern look over the shoulder. I doubt someone like him would approve of cooperating with the police. Katya's braid dangled nervously behind the delinquents sitting in front of me. My hand was glued to the desk.
До свидания, лейтенант.
Tikhonov was saying goodbye to Lilia Pavlovna. He was about to leave. It'll be too late soon. We're telling the policeman. I unglued my palm from the tabletop. I need to warn him, at the very least for Olya's sake, to assure her safety in the house near the squeaky pines. I raised my hand, heavy as a dumbbell. Excuse me? Almost 24 heads turned my way. My teacher, the officer, Polina. Katya shoved an elbow into her friend's side. Sleepy Biasha stretched out his neck. Romka frowned inquiringly.
I'm listening.
It felt like I was being studied under a microscope. Yesterday, when I was walking to school in the morning, I saw an unfamiliar person. My classmates started whispering. Tikhonov frowned, a deep wrinkle adorning the space between his eyebrows. There's no way he'd be able to tell if it was an outsider or a local. He's only just moved to our village. The other kids smirked. Katya flashed an evil smile.
Calm down. Can you describe them in more detail, Anton?
Then it dawned on me. I can do more than describe them. What I can do... I can draw them. I know how to draw, kind of. After spitting out this confession, I expected everybody to laugh, but that didn't happen. Even Katya stayed silent. Polina tilted her head and studied me, with an intrigued look on her face. I was pleased by this wave of attention. It made me feel bolder, so I asked, do you want me to? Tikhonov slowly nodded.
Lilia Pavlovna, we'll conduct a bit of an experiment here, all right?
Of course, of course. I took out a pen, flattened out a sheet of paper. My classmates stared at me in anticipation. Polina smiled, and it was the best reward I could get for my boldness.
Well, go on, Van Gogh. Draw.
Oh, God. Who am I drawing for a start? Are we going to draw Alicia? Elisa? I kind of want to draw the dude that was smoking a cigarette, but I just can't remember what he looked like. I mean, I guess it was hair like that. Maybe eyes like that. Yeah, maybe. I'm not convinced on the hair, is the only thing. Did he look like that? I'm not happy with the nose. Or the hair. I suppose that. Just not happy with the hair at all. Are they expecting me to draw Elisa? Only his short hair, didn't he? I mean, I guess I'll go with this. It looks more like kid's hair, though. Fine. Here. I handed the drawing to the officer.
And who might that be? Do you recognize this person, Lilia Pavlovna? Is this by any chance your arts and crafts teacher?
My homeroom teacher squinted, trying to have a close look at my drawing. Oh, what a nasty mug. That must be Petrov's old man. It felt like the windows shuddered from all the surrounding laughter. Lilia Pavlovna hissed at the class and the commotion died down, but I was already burning at the stake of shame.
Case closed, I guess.
Tikhonov folded my drawing and threw it into the folder.
Well, I'll be going.
He left. The bell rang. Nut job? I didn't move, just kept staring into space. Lilia Pavlovna passed by without looking my way. Polina left after her. My classmates went silent at the same time, as if someone muted the sound on a TV. They followed me with their eyes the whole time I was passing between the rows. Judgmental looks. I felt like I was in the scopes of many sniper rifles. I squeezed through the barricade made of desks looking for Polina. But I stumbled into my new buddies instead. Romka swaggered up to me. Decided to rat us out to the cops. I didn't say anything. But you sure as fuck thought about it, eh? Romka towered over me, breathing out a faint smell of tobacco. You're very wrong if you think that without Sioma you'll have a better time here. You can stop your weird act trying to impress Polina with your doodles or by acting like a loony. We'll make this place hell for you, got it? See you, Four Eyes. My head tilted forward from his slap. What a loser, eh? Kick me. I wasn't surprised to find a note stuck to my back during the break. It said, kick me. My nightmare clearly wasn't about to end. Oh, if another one of the bullies goes missing, it's going to very much point the finger towards us, isn't it? It's been 7 days since the lieutenant visited our class. At first glance, everything was still the same. The forest still held out its gnarly claws toward the village, and the wind whipped up white flags weaved from powdery snow every night. When my parents argued in the other room, I would turn up the TV's volume to silence their muffled voices and sit close to Olya. Vova's and Semyon's photos were still 2 black spots on the notice board. But something did change. I could see how different the looks of my classmates were. They met me with a new portion of pokes and insults. Contempt, mockery and loneliness became my faithful companions. But most importantly, a shadow slid across my desk, leaving behind a mysterious note. I glanced into the space between rows, but the messenger was already nowhere to be found. Who sent me this note? What could this carefully ripped out and neatly folded piece of paper be hiding from me? More threats and humiliation, or... I took the piece of paper and carefully inhaled the wafting aroma. Blackberry. I'll be waiting at the cul-de-sac near the dressing room. come alone. Drunk on that sudden call, I immediately started walking, looking over my shoulder from time to time, making sure nobody is following me. Even though I suspected it could be another trap set up by Romka and Biasha at first, this buzzing thought soon left my mind. The two of them didn't have enough combined brain power to fake Polina's notes so carefully. I didn't even notice how I almost broke into a run and jumped around the corner. As soon as I did that, I rammed into somebody inside the dark nook. Ow! Like a magic bird, a green notebook glided to my feet. Polina puffed her cheeks in exaggerated anger. Petrov, have you lost your sight completely? I fixed my glasses. My nearsightedness wasn't that embarrassing anymore. I bent down and picked up the notebook. Sorry, I was in a rush. Were you waiting for me? Did something happen? Polina studied me with her eyes and clicked her tongue. Did you know what you look like, Antosha? Like Blues Improv. I blinked in bewilderment. What do you mean? I always associate people I know with something. I did that too, but why music? It can't be anything other than music. Some people are like guitar solos, some are like drums. People like our Lilia Pavlovna are war marches. And you're so thoughtful, so mysterious, sometimes even a bit sad. You're definitely blues. And what about the improv part? It's when the listener has no idea where the melody will go, what tempo it will adopt. Of course, some of the things Polina said went completely over my head, but I couldn't stop looking at her smile, like a breeze in May, and her eyes, deep and blue. One needs to have experience and taste to recognise the music in you. You're not some pop music. I don't think I even know what blues is. Polina gasped and frowned, which made her look even more beautiful. Don't say something like that to my face. I'll make sure to give you a cassette. Grandpa used to bring me so much music from the city, jazz, swing, and classical too. He was the one to notice my musical mindset. When I was still very little, I tried recording the sounds of nature on paper, the songs of the rain and the forest. I wish I had ears like yours. And I'd love to have your eyes. I tensed up, worried that she was making fun of me, but Polina shook her head. No, I'm serious. You have the eyes of an artist. You're so good at picturing things. I can't do that. Katja walked past us with her trademark frosty glare. We dove into the shadows, trying to escape it. You understand why we're hiding here, right? Because of people like her. And what kind of melody is Katja? Polina flashed me a sly smile. The squeaking sound of unoiled door hinges. You know, this nasty descent? I giggled, covering my mouth, not quite sure what that meant. Katja didn't hear our whispers, but she suddenly glanced over her shoulder, clearly annoyed. A moment later she sighed and went her way. I remembered about the notebook I was still clutching in my hand. I turned it in my hands. Instead of a subject name, the front side had the name of the owner in 2 words. Friends only. Curiosity killed the cat, you know. I'm sorry, is this a questionnaire? Have you ever filled one? I lied that I had. In reality, girl classmates from my previous school had never asked me to fill their questionnaires. It was quite upsetting. I mean, it was a girl hobby. You just answer a set of standard questions about your favourite actors and colours, but entrusting someone with such a notebook was the sign of friendship. And maybe of something even more, something I only had a vague idea about. You can fill in mine if you want. My heartbeat quickened. I do, thank you. Polina giggled. Actually, there are so many secrets there. You'd be better off not knowing what we girls think. She reached for the notebook, playing with me. I tossed my finding into my free hand. Polina tried to intercept my move. Her hair briefly touched my face, tickling my nose with its silky locks. I sensed an aroma that immediately filled the whole world. Fragrant, alluring, lively. If only I could picture it, steal it for myself. I felt dizzy, but I gathered myself and spoke in a voice reminiscent of Lieutenant Tikhonov. Your questionnaire is an important piece of evidence. I'm afraid I have to confiscate it for further examination. Polina covered her mouth, rounded in fake horror. And what are the implications of concealing evidence? We'll decide that in the course of our investigation. I surrender, Mr. Policeman. Just promise you won't read anything. It's full of sensitive information. I'm afraid I'll have to investigate whether someone is in love with Mr. Petrov. Polina burst out laughing and pressed herself against my chest, showering me with the aroma of her hair and her milky skin that looked almost transparent, with tiny threads of veins running under it. Her whisper was hot, like a piece of butter sizzling on a pan. Then swear that you will keep this information private. I swear on my police badge. And now we need to hurry, Antosha. I took out the notebook during class. Skimmed through it, reading into other people's preferences. I was quite surprised to discover Romka's jerky handwriting inside. Roma Pietafan, 6B. Shafutinsky, February. Hanging out, buying a BMW. Schwarzenegger, don't trust, don't fret, don't ask. DuckTales, Biasha, I guess that might be birthday. His letters bulged out of the cells as if embarrassed by their shapelessness. Fearsome Romka found time for something so silly. I chuckled into my fist after I found out that Romka's favourite cartoon is not even Darkwing Duck, but DuckTales. Somewhere in the distance a teacher was reciting pieces of Andreev's Snapper. I paid them no mind. Polina's page was decorated with flower drawings and clippings from the Cool Girl magazine. Her favourite musician is Schubert. Is that best friend? Grandpa, maybe? Town musician of Bremen. Cartoon. Is that greatest fear? Losing the people I love? Hero? Robert Schumann, maybe? Ambition? See the world? Anyway. Her best friend is her grandpa. Her hobby is not violin like I expected, but a much more mysterious listening. Can such a mundane process really be someone's hobby? I looked at Polina over the heads of other students. She was focused on taking notes. I flipped the pages until I found a blank one and armed myself with a pen. Anton Petrov, Class 6B. I took a long time to decide on my favourite musician until a trendy pop band, Carman, came to mind, with the cool dancers in their music videos. Favourite holiday, that's easy. New Year's. My hobby is drawing. My dream, going to Disneyland, I guess. My hero. My hand moved on its own, writing Da. I stopped on those two letters. What if those who read this after me will find my answer laughable and stupid? After thinking for a bit, I decided that not everything should be disclosed on paper. That's how Da turned into Spy-Dar Man. The spelling was wrong, but who cares? Your biggest fear, huh? I immediately wrote, losing a person who's dear to me. My phone number. Oh, it was phone numbers, I think. That wasn't birthday. Your favourite cartoon? Transformers. Your best friend. I hesitated, gnawing on the pen's cap. Your best friend. I read the question out loud. It was easy, but at the same time very important. The answer to that was my sister's name, so I carefully wrote it into the squares. Olya. Olya. I repeated my sister's name while sneaking out of the school. There was a cute, freshly drawn dragon in my notebook that I made to please my beloved sister. In this land of darkness and deceit, her support was the only thing that inspired me to keep drawing and stopped me from losing hope in humanity. Refreshing, frosty air made my cheeks turn beet red. It was bright outside, and the sun looked like a whole egg yolk. The road looked as if it was silvered. The snow sparkled under the sunlight. I smiled, squinting from the blinding whiteness. Who cares if I don't have any true friends anymore? I have something more important. Someone who needs my help, who will never betray or hurt me. Family is the most important thing ever. That's what Dad always told me. Hey, what's up with this stupid grin? My numb lips immediately shrank. Biasha was shuffling his feet in the middle of the yard, his boots restless on the ice. It's not a grin. I tried to go around him to no avail. Lady Fortune waved me goodbye, disappearing in the early twilight. In a hurry, eh? A little bit. Dad is waiting for me. I'll shoot him a pager message that you're not coming, eh? My eye flinched unwittingly, my skin dampened. Let's go, eh? We have a small business to discuss. I felt chills run all over my body. I didn't like the sound of that, small business. Those words, accompanied by spitting, normally hid very dark deeds underneath them. Strangers that used to call our old apartment used to say, "Get your old man, we have a small business to discuss." Biasha turned around. He looked like an astronaut in this tight hood. If I were to imagine him as a sound, he'd be a deafening whistle, a signal given by someone who stands watch. To my demise, there was nobody at the backyard, apart from the grim-faced Romka. He stood there, his feet wide apart, with his right hand hidden behind his back. Romka's dry lips were tightly pursed. He kept shooting glances at me as he looked around. There he is, eh? I can see that. Well, hello there, Antosha. What do you want? He slowly took out a thin, carnivorously shiny blade from behind his back. A knife. The steel butterfly of death that flies towards the victim's heartbeat. I stepped back instinctively and rammed my back into Biasha. Romka's minion pushed me back. We wanted to know, do you have any hard feelings for me or Biasha? Romka started picking on his yellow nail, looking at me with an evil smirk on his face. Well, there in the forest, we kind of roughed you up. It's just our poor upbringing, you know. Yeah, not as cultured as you city folk. So we get feisty sometimes. I nodded, my eyes glued to the knife. The blade glowed under the setting sun, and Romka's eyes had the same evil glow. He stepped toward me. His knife travelled inches away from my coat. One movement and steel would cut into the cloth, and if he pushes deeper... A little bird told us that you were snooping about Polina again. I was so scared that it took me a while to remember who Polina was. My brain was malfunctioning. My knees were shaking. Suddenly our class rep slowly walked up to Romka from behind. I see you boys are getting along quite well. I owe you one, Katja. Oh, no need to thank me, Ramochka. I'm always fighting for true love. Yes, yes, yes. I'll kill you, I swear. I can't hear you. Were you near Polina or not? Well, we didn't hang out or anything. The only thing hanging out here will be your guts when I cut open your stomach. The blade slid across my sleeve with its dull side and reached my collar. The wind made my face cold, but a bead of sweat still trickled from my temple. A switch flipped in my head. It all made sense now. I remembered Romka constantly sneaking glances at Polina. I remember his scrawly handwriting in the questionnaire. Why didn't I study it more in depth? I see you near Polina even once, and you won't get away with a simple bump. Got it. Yes. Now scram. I was probably so hypnotized by the knife that Romka had to repeat his threat. Scram! I thought about the cold, sharp blade when retreating from the yard. I was asking myself whether I had enough courage to break the promise I made to these bastards. The aftertaste of horrible water I drank down my meds with lingered in my mouth. My thoughts were focused on Polina. But Romka's threat was also on my mind. I wandered around the house feeling intoxicated and nodded to everything my sister said without trying to discern her words. Olya was talking non-stop, at times lifting up her arms and laughing, only to then suddenly go quiet and give me Mum's signature gnarly look. I was yanked out of the prison of my own mind, where seething thoughts pecked at my brain like harpies, stopping me from coming back to reality. I stared back. Olya looked like a mini version of our mum right now. Well, to be precise, she looked like the person Mum turned into when we moved here, with her intimidating posture and her eyebrows directed towards the ceiling. You weren't listening to me, were you? She tried spitting out those words at me, copying facial expressions of the person she spent almost all of her free time with. For a moment I felt like the light Olya exuded all these years waned and wavered in the wind of prolonged changes. Very soon my beautiful princess will turn into the dragon that was once guarding her prison tower. That thought was much scarier to me than any other horror sneaking up to me from the future. Sorry, Olya. I didn't want to make you mad, I just got lost in thought. I looked around the room, my gaze jumping from one object to another like a hungry beast, trying to find anything that could distract Olya. Let's play the console. Olya pouted, but there was a spark of interest in her small emerald eyes. The Snow Queen's ice shard inside them started thawing. And what about the second controller? It's not working. And Dad has had no time to fix it. We can play with the light gun. What do you want to play? Cowboys? Ducks? You're better than me at both. Oh, come on. You must have been practicing the whole time I was away from home. Olya burst out laughing. Her heart was warm once again. How did you know? But I'm a good shooter now. You've already lost. You've picked the wrong fight here. Come on, turn it on. Little Olya jumped towards the TV set and, after flicking on the power switch, started blindly feeling around the back side of the photon, trying to plug the console's cable into the antenna input. Bits of TV shows started flashing on the CRT screen when I armed myself with the remote to look for the channel with the sought-after Dendy signal. As Home Alone. Alright, what's this saying? Dendy, an 8-bit gaming console that circulated in the CIS regions in the 90s. It was an unofficial third-generation Famicom, or NES clone. Neither Famicom nor NES were ever licensed for the Russian market, so Dendy was the only popular alternative for 8-bit gaming during that time period. Did anything interesting happen at home? It was a mundane question for me. I didn't put in the actual meaning behind it. But Olya's expression suddenly changed. She lost all of the childish nonchalantness she worked so hard to acquire before. What happened, Olya? My sister managed to put the cable in its place and started brushing off her dust-covered hand. She was clearly looking for the courage to continue this conversation. Mum, she... Olya went silent, and for a moment I thought I saw tears welling up in her eyes. She had this scary thing happen to her. Again. My sister looked at me with wet eyes. She had a fit, huh? This had happened before, but it was a rare occasion. Now that we'd moved to this godforsaken place, Mum's fits rose in frequency. Dad brought home a big fish. It was wrapped in a newspaper and had a foul smell. Mum got angry again and then she took a knife. Olya squirmed, looking fearfully out of the window. They started screaming at each other. I froze, imagining my little sister so small and unnoticeable standing in the kitchen doorway. She wasn't even trying to hide. Our parents just paid her no mind at all. And then Mum struck it. Like this. Olya slightly moved her fist downward, imitating a strike. She hit the fish. It was still alive, Tosha. It must have been in pain, and Mum... It was easy to imagine what happened next. The writhing fish with a blade between its fins squirted some foul-smelling musk into Mum's face. Whenever death got this close to my mum, be it when a person was hit by a bus in front of us and their blood was smeared all over the windshield, that's very specific, or when Grandma chopped off a chicken's head, Mum would always get into a weird, dreadful fit. Her eyes would roll over, she would fall on her face like a freshly cut tree, and started writhing, just like that agonizing fish, turning over chairs and blurting out bits of scary sentences. And what about Dad? Did he help her? Olya shuddered as if just remembering it pained her. Yes, but at first... He started laughing, Tosha. He let out an evil laugh when he saw that Mum was in trouble. But then he cried. Olya's story made me raise an eyebrow. It seemed like the forest's oozing madness had not only completely consumed our Mum, but also infected our strong and courageous Dad. I quickly stepped towards Olya and locked her in a tight embrace. She dug her face into my chest and I could feel my shirt becoming wet. Why are they bullying each other, Tosha? Are they crazy? I stuttered, unable to justify the actions of our parents. I had run out of words, and all I could do was hug Olya even tighter. Oh, Jesus. Olya screamed and hid behind me. Turn it off, quick! No matter how many times she saw this intro, she would always react the same, just like when she saw that owl. I mean, I also got goosebumps every time this ghastly face appeared on the screen, so I immediately complied with my sister's request. What is it? VID? A TV company logo depicting a ceramic head of the Chinese philosopher Guo Jiang with a three-legged toad on top of his head. It instilled horror in a whole generation of 90s kids in Russia. Jesus. Okay, I guess we play. Finally, the game selection screen showed up for the cartridge that was bundled with the console. Too bad most of the names here were just different levels of the same game. I picked up the grey rectangular controller and started looking around the pixel letters to find the familiar English word for duck. Background music from the menu soothed Olya's mind and she asked in a calm voice, "How are things at school?" "Nothing good. The school is new, but my treatment is the same. As if we never moved. I'm so tired of this." Before despair could lead me down its depressing road toward the clutches of oppressive thoughts, something evil writhed deep within my skull, awakening wild and unpleasant memories. Actually, something good did happen. Olya watched with hope-filled eyes as a wicked smile spread on my face, faintly resembling the wound from a box-cutter knife. Another boy went missing. "Tosha, do you think that's good? Why do you say that?" My sister's voice trembled when she looked into my eyes through the thick lenses. "You know, that other missing boy, Vova. Maybe what happened to him was all his fault. Maybe he did something so bad that he no longer deserved to live." "Don't be so cruel, please." Olya pressed her knees into her chin and hugged them with her hands, trying to take up less space, as if she wanted to shrink or even disappear altogether. It was the only reasonable thing for us to do, go missing among all the other broken toys, and never encounter evil parents or mad classmates. We're the only ones left for each other, the only ones who can protect, listen and sympathize. Which means she's bound to listen to what I think about them all, these beasts, pretending to be children that are so eager to bully the weak. It was my turn to speak. I think they won't be the last. My breathing quickens, my fingers start banging on the wooden floor. People like them are not worthy of living, going to the same school with us, or looking at your light. My thoughts got tangled. They slipped away along with all my calmness. "Tosha, stop it, you're scaring me." "Don't be scared. I can protect you." Then I finally noticed that Olya was looking at me like I was a stranger. Who are you?" The rage that welled up inside me subsided. It hid under the guise of my cowardliness, leaving me alone with a growing feeling of guilt for scaring my sister. "Olya, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I guess I'm just going crazy in that school." She rushed to embrace me, barely holding back her tears. "It's okay, Tosha. Just please never say anything like this again." I swear on Mum's heart." Olya flashed me a bitter smile. "And you told me I shouldn't say that." You're right. Let's start playing already. I go first. Oh wow, it's just me. Am I going to move the gun around? Perfect. I was going easy on you here. Alright, let's see what she can do. Oh. Ah! Ah! Boo, it's your fault I missed. Ah. Ah. Well, I think I won. She only got 13, didn't she? This doesn't count. You were close to the screen. I'm not playing with you anymore. We've got an achievement meanie. Maybe we should let her win. My mum only managed to get through to me on her third attempt. Anton, there's a call for you. It's a girl? I sobered up in an instant and rushed to the hallway. What's your step? I grabbed the phone, pressed it into my chest, looking at my mum. She shrugged and went into the room, gathering the toys thrown around by Olya as she went. Hello? Your mum has such a young voice. Well, yeah, I mean she is young. Are you busy right now? No, of course not. If only she knew how costly this conversation could be for me, what risks I took on just answering this call. There were a pen and shabby notepad lying on the nightstand. I picked them up and started moving the tip of the pen across the paper, producing chaotic doodles that always ended up turning into hearts. I've been thinking. I need to tell you something. I froze. It can't be. Does she like me? You've been looking so lost lately, and when I saw you at school today, you were pale like a ghost. I couldn't find words. My heart was aflutter in anticipation. I wanted to say that I'm on your side. A smile was spreading on my face in anticipation for Polina's next words. And I feel so sorry for you. Good guys like you deserve better. I want to believe that you'll find the strength to fight back at some point and the others will stop picking on you. The pen fell out of my weak fingers. Is that all she's going to say? Maybe you'll even find a girlfriend. She sounded as if she was unsure of her own words. Well, I just wanted to let you know that you're a nice guy. It was a total failure. Compassion instead of an invitation to hang out. You there? Before I could reply, Olya descended the stairs. She was holding some book in a pink cover. Encyclopedia of a Young Lady. Will you take long? I covered the handset with my hand. I'm in the middle of a conversation. What happened? Read me a bedtime story, please. Mum fell asleep. Go to your room, I'll be there in a minute. Just be quick, okay? Fine. My last reply sounded excessively annoyed. I sighed, watching my sister running up the stairs. Hello, Polina? Sorry, I need to run. Can you imagine there's someone in love with me and he snoops around under my windows demanding to go on a date with him? I'll go chase him away before Grandpa wakes up. Or maybe I should give him a chance. I bit my lower lip in jealousy. I'll tell you tomorrow if you want. We're friends after all. Oh, wow. Friends. At least you didn't say we were besties. Yeah, sure. Good. The buzzer hammered at my brain. Dirty slut. An angry voice spoke through the teeth in my brain. Like a restless zombie devoid of a consciousness, I dragged my feet up the staircase. I wish I could tell Dad, ask for his manly advice, but he doesn't show up home until late at night because of his new job. My parents don't have time for me, to put it lightly. Well, where's your book? I stuttered. The kids' room was empty. Olya? She probably snuck into my room. I started walking down the corridor. The room was infested with shadows. The blinds were wavering like there was someone hiding behind them. I smiled, sneaked towards the window and then threw open the curtain. Gotcha! There was nobody behind the cloth. The window was a TV screen showing winter scenery. The lamppost, the field, a couple of walking figures in the middle of it. Elisa and Olya. I gasped and pressed my fist to my mouth, sinking my teeth into it. Elisa was leading Olya into the thicket. I needed less than a minute to hurriedly dress and rush out of the house. My heart was beating like a firing machine gun. The wind carried the cold, resinous smell of coniferous trees from the forest. Freezing air crackled somewhere in the field. Two shadows loomed in front of the gate. I could only recognize them as my sister and the fox girl because of their height. I ran toward the fence, listening to the howling wind and the squeaking snow. One of the figures moved and slowly glided toward the thicket like an ice skater. I slowed down and touched my glasses, trying in vain to adjust the vision to the surrounding darkness. Worry landed on my shoulders like a weightless snowflake. A snake woke up in my belly and started writhing. I felt nauseous. I thought about my home, the flimsy fortress I'd left behind. I finally caught up to my sister, dressed only in a coat. Olya? Have you seen the foxy? Olya, why did you go outside? If Mum finds out... My sister froze in place, facing the tiger. She was in a hand's reach, and I put my numb wrist on her shoulder for some reason, probably to make sure it wasn't a dream. Oh, Jesus. Right. A pointy beak was directed at me, strewn with feathers that formed an owl face. Something wearing a bird mask was staring at me. Hoot, hoot, she won't. The voice sounded exactly like Olya's, but there was somebody else hiding behind the feathers in the carton. I sprinted away as if I got whipped. The masked creature only pretended to be Olya, just to lure me out. I was running like crazy, drowning in snow. The house in front of me was rapidly growing. The yellow light in its windows granted me hope. My mum and sister are there, my salvation. I couldn't hear anything from behind me, as if nobody was chasing me. Maybe it's because the owls can fly. I was already climbing the porch when I noticed another figure. From the soot-black shadow of my house, a scruffy wolf cub crawled out and stood in my way. Its movements were jerky, chaotic, as if it was performing some terrifying dance, or convulsing during a stroke. And even though I could clearly see that the wolf face was a mask, something in this werewolf's convulsions made me freeze in place. The boy in the wolf's costume rubbed his side against the porch post and fell to his knees. He bent his back so hard that I expected his spine to crack. The beast's eyes shone, but he didn't attack. He kept crawling around and running on all fours. I shifted my feet, my mouth agape, trying to keep him in my line of sight. Something was trickling from the slit in the mask. Viscous drops fell to the wooden planks. Saliva. Some unknown force pushed me in the back, whispering me to save myself. The fence was flashing by at the edge of my vision. I was running, In another direction this time, towards the toothy edge of the forest that smelled of pine. My heartbeat measured time. The wolf boy growled behind my back as if he forgot his human nature. My right leg got stuck in the snow-laden cavity. I yanked it out, cursing under my breath, and fell to the ground. Plastering snow prevented me from standing up, from propping myself against anything, but my unbound thirst for life helped me to get out of that trap. Darkness was creeping closer, like the toxic fumes of burial pyres. I ran again, gasping for air that stung my throat. My hair swayed in the wind. I lost my hat when I fell down, and my ears were now hot from the freezing cold while most of my body was still sweaty. The field finally ended. After realising that running into the forest wasn't the smartest decision I could make, I dove into the line of trees. I ran without stopping, my face covered with one of my palms. I didn't want to lose an eye to some random branch. Branches whipped my clothes, prickled my skin like butchers that were herding a pig into the grinder. A knot of roots, sprouting from the ground, grabbed at my foot. I rammed into the scratchy trunk, slid down to its base and looked around in a panic. Phew, you're so fast. My first desire was to dash toward her and hug her. I resisted it and squeezed myself even tighter into the pine. What are you doing here? This and that. She was holding the hat I lost. Working part-time in Lost and Found? Put it on or your ears will freeze and maybe even fall off soon. She giggled. I squinted in suspicion and shifted my gaze back and forth between her and the hat, scared that Elisa might be holding a severed head or something even more sinister. But in the end, my hat turned out to just be my hat. Do I have other options? I guess I'll take it, right? I took it and pulled it over my forehead. Feeling warmer? I didn't reply. There were some children in the yard. And? Did they bite you or something? No. Then why did you run away? The answer was obvious, but after rolling the thought around on my tongue, I mumbled, I don't know. And why did I promise to never call you a dunce again? Oh well, I keep my promises. She walked up to me and grabbed me by the elbow. I sensed the familiar aroma of mint, oranges and burnt sparklers. I wanted to lean into Alice, to savour the minute details of her smell. How many times do I need to tell you you're safe as long as you're with me? I'm your friend. And they are too. I quickly turned around toward the place the fox girl was pointing to. Kids in masks appeared at the clearing. At least they looked like kids, since they were all pretty short. A wolf boy, an owl girl, and a bear boy. Where's the owl? Oh, there. They all huffed and gasped for air, clearly tired from running around. I thought you fell through the snow. Started digging around but couldn't find you. And I didn't. Didn't care enough. You see, if you're dumb and you run around and dig, if you're smart, you wait until the others get tired of running around and digging. Then you start talking. You're a rat. Degenerate. Huh? Oh, don't mind him, he's a weirdo. I stood there stupefied, my mouth agape and my hands dangling helplessly. I had no idea how to react to the words of these late-night guests, but I managed to squeeze out something resembling a smile. You just scared me, that's all. They started looking at each other, and somebody even snorted as if I said something funny. Yes, the fox is right. He's the one. No, this is our... Have we finally found him? No, our bunny. Yes, he looks the part. The wolf boy started wagging a part of his costume like it was his tail in excitement. First. Of course you were the first. Wolfie here was the first to sense the bunny in you. He told us about you. Hello? And you've already met our Hootie before. She isn't that scary, is she? I guess. And this smiling big guy is Teddy. Be mindful with him or he'll chew off your head. What? I see you've also dropped your sense of humour somewhere on the way here. I was still unsure if these peculiar little animals had the best intentions in mind, so I hid my hands behind my back, trying to look away from the gaping holes of their carnival masks. Alyssa put her hands to her sides in a theatrical manner and somehow managed to wink with her fox face. The next time we come, we'll ring bells for you. That way you'll be less scared of our visit. Do we even have any bells? I won't be ringing. My paw hurts. My smile was no longer fake. Ah, you showed us your teeth. That's a good sign. I didn't expect you to find us fun. I thought it was an emotion reserved strictly to Disneyland. How do you know that? I read about it. Somewhere. You read about me? Aren't you funny? Know about Disneyland, darling. You can read human? Do you think I've been going to school every day for nothing? And then she sang in a coquettish song.
Как детей не замечать, как мечты их развенчать. Учат в школе, учат в школе, учат в школе. Крепко-накрепко вломить, с детства их чморить.
Okay, tell you what, I'm not going to sing this, but where to hit kids every week, where to prey on all the meek, at your local school, of course, and in your classroom. I let out a cautious laugh. My new acquaintances didn't seem scary anymore. On the contrary, they looked friendly and welcoming. There was something about them that attracted me. Just like this clearing, this moon and the snowflakes that fell backwards, from the ground to the sky, as if someone was rewinding a tape. The masked kids got close, and I felt their touch. They gave me friendly taps, felt my clothes as if checking whether I was real. There was no animalistic malice in their touch, only pure, childish curiosity. For some reason I thought to myself, I can trust them. Snowflakes just kept on floating upwards. Nobody will hurt you anymore. Friend. Yeah, if somebody even tries to. The fox gave me a slight tug and burst out laughing. Well then, Tosha, will you run away screaming or come with us? Where to? To the amusement park. At that moment, Tiger's deceptive silence was broken by the sound of a distant flute. Mesmerizing and alluring, it brought about the ring of crystal glass and the whispers of a fresh winter spring. If I had any doubts before, the flute's song shattered the last of them. I started following my new friends before I could even make my decision. My legs carried me of their own will, and the tunnels made of pines stepped apart. Bushes bowed in front of our procession. Everything looked dreamlike. Because even the clearing we ended up on, I only saw in my dream. The flute soared up in the treetops like some fantastical bird. The snowflakes floated up in a spiral. The moon painted tree branches with silver. Alyssa gasped in amazement. I was also in awe. I tilted my head backwards as far as I could. Hoot, what a sight! It's so beautiful. Wolfie howled in agreement. This is nothing. I can show you much more. If you want. I did want. I wanted to see what the fox girl saw with her eyes, hidden in the semi-dark of her cape. Now I didn't feel weird about these masked kids. I felt weird for being the only one without a mask. I felt like I was naked in the January winds. Why do you wear these masks? I was trembling, but I wasn't scared. My trembling wasn't caused by the cold. It originated from the peculiar anxiousness, the anticipation of something amazing. And why do you ask? I touched my cold cheek. I'm not wearing one. Ah ha ha, I love human tails. Human nails? Human fails. I've already told you. All the villagers wear masks. It's just you won't find anything human underneath them. Even me? You're so clumsy, Anton. We've already found your glasses once already. And you grat. And your real face. I looked at the mask the fox was holding out to me. the bunny mask that looked like a silver ingot under the moonlight. I was curious to see the world through its slits. Okay, I think we're going to leave it here. I didn't want to go on too long with this episode because I don't want the next episode to be really short, just in case I've done most of the third episode in this episode. If I could say the word episode anymore. So we'll save it here, and when we come back, we'll follow these lunatics a bit more and see what happens. So yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Really enjoying it still. If you enjoy this episode, please do hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. That would be fantastic. And in the meantime, I hope to see you again for possibly the final episode of Tiny Bunny, at least at this time while it's still in development. So bye for now.